Everyone's crying, shoulders heaving, tissues shredded, the air thick with it. And you, front row, back straight, eyes clear, no tears, not even a shine. And the thought you would never say out loud, everyone's crying. I'm not. What's wrong with me? You know this room, the flowers, the rose, the right words said in the right order. Everyone knows their part. It's a play. And you've been handed a program with your name missing. And now, cut to another funeral, another front row, another still face. Different year, different country, same play. His name is Meursault. The year is 1942, and the book begins. Maman died today, or yesterday maybe, I don't know. He's about to become the most famous stranger in literature, and he has no idea. Neither do you. Because by the end of this, you're going to sit in the defendant's chair of the most famous trial ever written, and you're going to recognize the evidence. The telegram said, "Mother deceased, funeral tomorrow, faithfully yours." The old people's home at Marengo, about 80 kilometers from Algiers. He took the 2 o'clock bus. It was very hot, and he fell asleep. At the home, they ask if he wants to see his mother. He says no. They ask if he wants coffee. He says yes. No. Watch the vigil through his eyes. The room, the coffin, the caretaker. Coffee with milk, then a cigarette. He hesitates. He doesn't know if he can smoke with Maman right there. He thinks about it. It doesn't matter. They smoke, in silence, beside the coffin. Then the old people come in. The residents of the home, his mother's friends. They file in and sit in a circle, watching. He drinks his coffee, he smokes, he gets sleepy, and at some point, he closes his eyes. He sleeps at his mother's vigil. Nobody says anything. The old people just sit there. And Meursault doesn't feel guilty. That's the part the court will remember, not just the murder, the coffee, the cigarette, the fact that he didn't seem guilty. The next morning, the funeral, the heat, the white road. Thomas Perez, the old man close to Maman, walks behind the hearse, falling behind in the heat, and Meursault notices everything. The flowers, the nurse's face, the sound of Perez's cane on the road. What he doesn't do is cry. On the bus home, he thinks about his boss, about getting back, about his life. He does not think about his mother, and that's where most tellings stop. He felt nothing, but the novel doesn't stop. It follows him home. That's where the strange part begins. The next day, he goes swimming, and the water is cold and good. He runs into Marie, a former colleague. They swim, they laugh. That night, a comedy, a Fernandel film. And he laughs. 24 hours after his mother's funeral, he is laughing at a Fernandel film with a woman he used to work with. And this is the moment most readers put the book down and think, there, that's the monster. But watch what he actually says next. Marie asks, "Do you want to marry me?" And he says, "It doesn't mean anything, but sure, if you want to." She asks, "Do you love me?" And he says, "Probably not. It doesn't mean anything." Maybe the more unsettling possibility is that he's not trying to be cruel. He's being brutally literal about what he feels, radically, inconveniently, almost unbearably honest. He refuses to say the line he doesn't feel. That is not the same thing as feeling nothing. Meanwhile, a neighbor, Raymond, a bruised girlfriend, and a letter he wants written. Meursault writes the letter. Then the beating, the police station, then the beach. Sunday, the sun, the glare, the man with the knife, the sun on the blade, a thin sheet of light. 5 steps, the heat on his forehead, the whole beach trembling. The trigger gives. He fires, then 4 more times. It was like knocking 4 quick times, the book says, on the door of unhappiness. And when they ask him why, he says, because of the sun, and he is being perfectly honest. The jury laughs at that answer. But watch what the trial is actually about. The courtroom. Months later, Meursault on trial for his life. And the first thing the prosecution does, it calls witnesses, not witnesses to the murder, witnesses to the funeral. The director of the home, the caretaker, Thomas Perez. They tell the court about the coffee, the cigarette, the sleep, the coffin he didn't look at, the tears that never came. Perez, on the stand, is asked what he saw at the funeral. "My sadness made it impossible to see anything," he says, "because for me it was a very great sadness, and I even fainted." The prosecutor asks, "Did you at least see him cry?" Perez says no. The lawyer asks, "Did you see him not cry?" Perez says no. The spectators laugh. To be precise, this trial was never only about the funeral. The dead man on the beach is an unnamed Arab in colonial Algiers. That absence, and the colonial world surrounding it, matters. But listen to what the state chose to build its case around. Not the man on the beach, the man at the funeral. The prosecutor rises. He points at Meursault. "Gentlemen of the jury," he says, "the day after his mother's death, this man was out swimming, starting up a dubious liaison. Why didn't you cry? Why the coffee? Why the comedy? The day after? Why did you go swimming the day after your mother died? Why did you start a relationship? Why didn't you look at the body?" And here's the trap. The room agrees. You can feel them agreeing, because this is the exact room you were standing in at the start of this video. The reserved rows, the judgment, the script. The courtroom isn't in Algiers anymore. It's in every city, and the defendant isn't Meursault. It's anyone who didn't perform. Meursault tries to explain. He wants to say it was the son. He wants to say that's just how he is. He wants to explain that he didn't mean anything by it. The court doesn't want explanations. They want a soul. The examining magistrate had already tried. He thrust the crucifix in Meursault's face. "I am a Christian," he screamed. "I ask him to forgive you your sins. How can you not believe that he suffered for you?" Meursault says no. "I have never seen a soul as hardened as yours," the magistrate says. "The criminals who have come before me have always wept at the sight of this image of suffering." And at the office door, every visit cordially. That's all for today, Monsieur Antichrist, and the verdict. Death by guillotine for the murderer officially. But listen to the case they used to decide what kind of man had committed it. The funeral, the coffee, the cigarette, the face. Meursault's lawyer throws up his hands. "Come now, is my client on trial for burying his mother or for killing a man?" And the prosecutor answers, "Between these two sets of facts, there existed a profound, fundamental, and tragic relationship." The court agrees with the prosecutor. Months pass. An appeal. A cell. Meursault reads old newspapers, looking for a way out, looking for something to hold on to, and he finds a story. A young man leaves his village, makes his fortune abroad, and years later comes home to his mother and sister without telling them who he is. He shows them his money. That night, they kill him and rob him. And only afterward do they learn the man they killed was their own son, their brother. Meursault reads this and thinks, it could have been me, not the killing. The other part, the stranger in his own house, the face the family didn't recognize, because that's the terror underneath this whole story. And maybe underneath yours. You could stand in the middle of your own family at your own funeral and be the one person nobody quite knows. The person in the front row who isn't crying isn't necessarily the one who doesn't feel. Sometimes they're the one who never learned the language the room is speaking. The night before the execution, the chaplain comes to the cell. He does what everyone has done. He tries to make Meursault into a different person. The confession, the conversion, the face. And Meursault, patient, polite, distant through the whole trial, finally breaks. He shouts, grabs the chaplain by the collar, shouts that he's not sorry, that nothing matters, that he means exactly what he says. And when the shouting is over, when the chaplain is gone, Meursault lies on the cot. He looks at the night sky through the bars, at the stars. "I opened myself," he says, "to the gentle indifference of the world, finding it so much like myself, so like a brother, really. I felt that I had been happy, and that I was happy again." Read that line again. So like a brother, not a cold world, a brother. The universe that doesn't care is the first thing in his life that never demanded he pretend. He isn't the monster, he's the one who stopped performing. And the book ends with his one wish. "For everything to be consummated," he says. "For me to feel less alone, I had only to wish that there be a large crowd of spectators the day of my execution, and that they greet me with cries of hate. Because hatred, at least, is honest. At last, they're looking at him. At last, they see him." Camus said Meursault was the only Christ we deserve, not a saint, not a hero, the one who died for the sin of telling the truth about what he felt. And here's what most tellings leave out. The man who wrote this. Camus' own father died at the Battle of the Marne in 1914, When Albert was not yet 1 year old, he grew up with a ghost, a man he never knew, a stranger buried in a grave he would one day travel across a continent to stand beside. The man who wrote the novel about a stranger at his mother's funeral was himself the son of a stranger. Maybe numbness isn't always the absence of love. Maybe sometimes it's what love looks like when it has no script. Now, one honest detour, because you should know what the science actually says about the dry-eyed mourner. And the first thing it says, there is no single explanation. Sometimes grief does something strange. Instead of flooding you, it numbs you. The freeze response, an emergency brake, when a loss is too big to process. And sometimes the tears arrive later, months later. A song, a cereal box, a voice you haven't heard in years. Sometimes the quiet ones aren't the ones who felt nothing. Sometimes they're the ones the storm is still coming for. And here's the uncomfortable half of the truth. Sometimes the numbness is grief, and sometimes it's refusal. A lifetime of performing so hard that feeling became optional. Meursault isn't a diagnosis. He's a question. The same question you brought into this video. Everyone's crying. I'm not. What's wrong with me? What if the answer isn't, nothing's wrong with you? What if it's, the script is wrong, not you? The funeral wasn't only about feeling. It was also about performing. And the person who couldn't perform correctly suddenly looked suspicious. So, a small experiment. Next time grief comes for you, at a funeral, or sideways, at a song, at a cereal box, don't ask, why can't I feel this? Ask, what am I actually feeling? Not what I'm supposed to feel, not what the room is feeling. What is actually in me right now under the performance? And if the answer is nothing, genuinely nothing, don't panic. Sometimes that's the freeze. Sometimes the storm is still far out at sea. Either way, it isn't a verdict on your love. If these questions are hurting you, if the numbness won't lift, if the grief is drowning you, get real help, please. This is reflection, not treatment. One last thing. Camus's own summary of his book, years later. In our society, any man who does not weep at his mother's funeral runs the risk of being sentenced to death. He wrote that in 1955. But here's the thing. We're still running that court. So the real question isn't, why did you feel nothing at the funeral? The real question is, which funeral are you still standing in? Performing. Silent. Waiting for the verdict. The world doesn't need your performance, but the script doesn't end at the funeral. It doesn't stop there. It's the wedding, the job, the feed, the alarm clock. Every room that hands you a part. Meursault's answer was the acceptance. The universe as a brother. The performance finally dropped. But Camus didn't stop there. He wrote one more book about a man who sees the whole game and keeps pushing anyway. You've met him. The rock, the hill, the climb that never tops out. Your job, your commute, your alarm clock, that's the boulder. Same silence, same script. Which funeral are you still standing in? The rock is still at the foot of the mountain, waiting. That's next on Mindscape Philosophy. Your job is the boulder.